Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this grab and go session. We have a very exciting and very interesting topic. We are going to talk about intelligent business process management, low code, all in an intelligent automation context. My name is Sergio Cabrera. I am a senior manager here at Deloitte Consulting, and I'm working very close in this area of intelligent automation, low code, and BPM.
Yes, and I am Nicholas Caden. I'm a senior consultant also at Deloitte in the Analytics and Cognitive department, and I have been working with intelligent automation for the past 5 years, and I consider myself an evangelist in the field.
And we have a special guest from our partners, Appian. Andreas, please.
Yes, hello, thank you very much. I'm Andreas Skoglund. I work as a solution consultant at Appian. I'm based in Stockholm, but I cover the whole Nordic area.
Thank you, Andreas. Well, we have prepared a short, concise agenda, but very interesting, we believe so, on this topic. So first, we will take you through a very short introduction of what it is this we called iBPM and low code and so forth. Then after that, we will go and ask our friend Andreas to take you through a short demo of the platform so you can see what it is that we mean on this topic. After that, we will give you a little bit of introduction of our own implementation of Appian Cloud to do this purpose. And after that, we will summarize some of the key takeaways that we have been talking through this grab and go session. And at the end, we will have a question and answer section that you will have the opportunity by writing in the chat at any time during the presentation. We will see your questions here, and then we will try to answer as many as possible of these questions at the end. Thank you. So let's start with the presentation. So basically, what we believe is important to understand is a little bit of background. And why are we talking about this? It's because we're seeing many companies starting this type of digital transformation. We all want to improve our processes. We all want to reduce cost. We all want to be better at serving our clients, our customers, and so forth. And for many of us, one way of achieving that is through a digital transformation, intelligent automation, digitalization, and so forth. But what we have seen based off two of our latest studies from 2020, one of them is the Intelligent Automation Survey, the global survey that we do. And another one is a survey for the Chief Strategy Officers. We can see some of the important key takeaway of those studies, those surveys. And we see that a lot of companies, around 70 plus organizations, are doing a lot of digital transformation projects and programs, but very small portion of them feel capable of. As you can see here, we're talking about 26% of the organizations feel capable of doing this digital transformation, right? A lot of organizations or more and more organizations are trying to do automation, intelligent automation. Many started with the robotics, with RPA. We're talking about more than 50% of organizations that we have surveyed started RPA, but maybe 30 plus percentage of interviewed companies are taking more tools into the intelligent automation portfolio, right? And what we see is that they have a barrier to scale. And one of these barriers is what is called the process fragmentation, right? Basically, they try to roll out any digitalization project or solution or any intelligent automation solution, and they hit a wall of process being scattered across the organization. The work that one individual is doing for the big picture is very little, so they cannot find this potential for automation, or it's very difficult to digitalize the whole process, right? So what we see is that still companies are thinking of the big benefit of doing these digitalization programs and automation programs, which is cost reduction, better serve the customers, reduce lead time of the whole processes. So what we believe is that the companies that are reaching that goal and attaining that digital transformation and digital transformation or digital programs, it is when they transform their processes and digitalize them. When I say digitalize them, I also mean automating those processes. It doesn't pay off to automate or digitalize bad processes. What it makes sense and what it is giving results is looking at the big picture, end-to-end processes across different departments maybe, and then transforming these processes, having in mind all these digital tools that are ready and mature to be used.
Yes, and this brings us now a little bit to the topic of today's session, how iBPM and LowCode can actually be used to achieve this digital transformations with your processes and operations. So iBPM in this equation is basically the part that will help you transform your organization. We see iBPM as the top layer above people and applications, where it really orchestrates processes and tasks so that they're assigned to the right people and that idle handover times are being removed. And another benefit of it is that it facilitates, so it gathers all of the information that is relevant for the given process into a single view, so that you get the right information to the right person at the right time. And lastly, iBPM is also very intelligent, so it can actually help automating decision making, and there's a lot of built-in smart analytics functionality around it that actually helps you reach your ultimate goal of achieving process excellence. Now, LowCode, on the other hand, is basically the part that will help you to do this at speed and to scale your initiative. So with LowCode, you can actually build process apps in a very short amount of time, literally with the click of a mouse. So there's a lot of very good drag and drop functionality that allows you to configure these process-based apps in a short time and with great functionality.
Can I ask you something?
Yeah.
What is short time? Are we talking about 3 months, 8 months? What is short time?
It depends, of course, a little bit on the process, because you, on the one hand, want to harmonize the process a bit first. But usually we see that processes can be automated or built somewhere between, let's say, 2 weeks to 2 months.
Great, thank you.
Another part about LowCode is that it works on any device. So with many of the legacy applications that companies have, they usually work only on the laptops that they use. But with LowCode, the interfaces you build, they already work on your phone and other things. And lastly, often we see a challenge with scaling automation, that there is a lack of technical capabilities and resources that can actually help maintain and scale those solutions. But since it's LowCode, it's a lot easier to also make the edits and make sure that your operations behind it is running smoothly.
Great.
And then also something that Servio mentioned earlier, when we look at companies, we see that processes are very isolated within different departments. And there's, even if it's the same process that 2 different departments do, the harmonization around them is usually not very good. And especially when processes span over different departments, then the handover times are usually, they take a long time. Sometimes it's even people going physically to one desk to the next, handing them a stack of paper.
Yeah, exactly.
So that usually,
adds some overhead, right? I remember visiting a company in the shared service department, right, and the finance department, and I could go through one department and another department and a third department, and I could see that the case was handed over from one department to a second to a third, and every time it was before they hand over, they checked it once. When they received it in Department 2, they checked it again. And when they were about to send it forward to Department 3, they check it again. And then the Department 3, they check it yet again. So sometimes you find 4 times checks and still errors and time that gets accumulated and these handovers, right? This is inefficient, very inefficient.
Exactly. And also if we now think about times of COVID-19, where suddenly a lot of people moved to a home office, it also, of course, has a high challenge to make sure that your processes that you have that are very paper-based and physical, how you then orchestrate them at home when people cannot meet face-to-face. So this is where IBM really comes in, because it's not about the applications anymore, but about the process itself and how they are orchestrated in the most efficient and smartest way possible.
Great, great. Thank you, Nicholas. I think it's important also to get a little bit more concrete on this. What we have been so far doing is telling you some good things and good features that you can maybe harvest from these tools. But we want to also tell you a little bit about what we have seen in the market, implementation that we have done together with other clients, right? So we have two cases right now. I'm going to talk a little bit about it. The first case is an European bank. It's started in Spain, so it is quite big in whole Europe, but especially in Spain is one of the major banks over there. And they started using Appian as an iBPM tool to enhance their robotics efforts. So they had already a big installation of robotics implementation solutions over there, and they wanted to add the next layer or the next tool to their portfolio and get more agility and deliver faster to the business. So they started implementing Appian, and basically they created a lot of modules and a lot of building blocks so they could reuse these components, and that is basically one of the main advantages of iBPM and Appian, right? So what happens is when COVID came and every bank that needed to create a new process for approval of the COVID support packages, right? This bank, with our help or an Appian help, developed the whole process from start to end for approving COVID loans in 3 weeks. From start to going to production in 3 weeks. They actually got so famous that they went on the press. So newspapers in Spain published this story of this bank being so agile and so fast that in 3 weeks put that process in production and was the first bank to grant all their quotas of COVID packages in Spain. So that is a very, very tangible example of what this type of technology can do for your business, right? The next case is yet another case of a big insurer in Europe. It is a company that started moving away from having 8, 10 different systems to do their claims and do the renewal of policies and so forth. Many companies that you might recognize yourself your employees need to access 10 different systems or 10 screens to do one particular task. And we have been using robotics to automate some of these tasks, right? Which is good. Now the next layer, the next step, or the next shift, if you will, would be to orchestrate all of that and summarize that in one view. So basically what we did together with this client and Appian was basically to create a simplified version of all those systems into one screen, or maybe 1 to 3 screens, rather than 10, 15, 20 screens and different systems, but into 1 to 3 screens from Appian perspective. Then this solution will read the data from all the systems, maybe even trigger robots to do some work, and then put that information back into the case console, and then employees could do their work more efficiently. So basically, it had 3 phases, this project. We started with motor claims management, then after that, claim inspections, including external vendors, and finally with policy renewals. What the client got out of it, it was considerable. I mean, we're talking about 30, 25% reduction in processing time, a lot of reduction in human errors, and a higher customer satisfaction.
So today we of course do this session together with Appian, which is one of the leading vendors in this entire field around iBPM and LowCode. And we wanted to put Appian a little bit into context where we see it overall in the intelligent automation space. So what you're seeing right now is like a layered structure of the different boxes that we consider the main ones when it comes to intelligent automation, where Appian is very strong in the orchestration layer. So they have a lot of built-in case management features, monitoring possibilities, and easy rule engines so that you can quickly put your business logic of your processes in a very easy way into the tool. They also have the engagement layer side covered, where you can build your user interfaces fast with LowCode. and they have the automation layer. So they have their own RPA tool and also smart document processing tools, how scanned documents can very easily in an intuitive interface being transferred into digital information, which will also help you a lot with many of these old processes that you have that are still very paper-based. And it also has an intelligence layer where it actually can, with the use of machine learning and AI, give smart suggestions on how to improve the process. So if you want to use Appian as this one-stop shop for your intelligent automation endeavor, it's definitely possible. But it doesn't have to be that way. So Appian has a great ecosystem and partnership with a lot of different vendors in this field as well. So you can just use it for parts of it and then integrate your solution with already other services where you, for instance, use Azure or Google or other RPA tools. So it's not the idea to replace what you already have, but rather orchestrate your entire intelligent automation initiative so that you have like a single interface for that.
Exactly, Nicholas. And if I comment on that one, I think one of the advantages is exactly that, that Appian has all the automation or the intelligent automation tools in one product, right? And it's not that they are trying to chew in too much. And it is basically they have done by acquiring some companies and integrating very well, like Jidoka for the robotics. So Jidoka was a very, very successful robotics product. So it's not that they do robotics halfway or maybe, in a mediocre way, they do it very well. But then the advantage is that you have this solution that can serve the purpose of automating in so many ways. So you have less of a procurement problem, less of a new vendor to manage. So you can concentrate that with one vendor and doing it very well. And when we look at the vendors to actually work on with our clients, we don't choose some that we just like. We do a lot of research. And in this case, when we were looking for a product, we found that Gartner gave them 3 leaders recommendation in 3 different areas, which is the case management, iBPM, and automation, right? Yeah. So it really hits these 3 areas very, very well.
Good. And that brings us to the demo that now Andreas from Appian will show you.
The purpose of the application I'm going to demo now is to quickly get companies the loans they need to get the business running during these COVID-19 times. The demo shows the end-to-end process from the start of a loan request until it is approved and electronically signed by the bank. This application was developed for the Netherlands market, and it took 2 developers around 7 to 8 weeks to complete the application. So we have built 2 different portals. What we're looking at now is the customer portal where companies can apply for loan, and then we have the lender's management portal, where officers can approve or reject loan applications. They can see some aggregated data about the loans, and they can also drill down to details. In this demo, we will start with the perspective of the customers. So here I have all the relevant resources I need to make a request, such as access to contact points. We have product information. We can launch a new application, and we can view its status. As you see, and we'll see more of, it's easy to build rich UIs that conforms to corporate standard in regards to colors, fonts, and logos. So I can also mention that in this bank, I'm already a customer. So I will now start a new application. And during the process of applying for a new loan, you will also have to answer a number of questions, which will determine if you meet the requirements for the loan or not. By doing this, the bank can detect fraud attempts early. So first question, have I been impacted by the coronavirus or not? And yes, obviously we have. Second screen, and here I have to provide my company number. And when I do that, the application will do an API call against the public database and retrieve details about my company, like company name and where the company operates and whether the company is active or not. We also do a duplicate check, and here we see that this company already have applied for a loan. So the duplicate check we do against the bank's internal system. Maybe this was a mistake or it was a fraud attempt, but I will provide a different number, and we can see that according to the public database, this company also operates in the Netherlands and are active, and now we are fine to continue our application. So first I must just certify that we are primarily trading in the Netherlands, we don't want to borrow more than 150 million euros, and we are profitable. So I continue to the next screen, and here I'm informed about what I will need to provide during the rest of the process of my application so I can prepare myself. I continue, and I can now choose between continuing with the wizard or uploading documents that I filled out manually. By using the wizard, I make sure that the application gets filled correctly with the help of business rules being applied in the background and checking my different inputs. So I continue with the wizard, and now I can see to the left the different steps I have to go through until I'm done with my application. So on this screen I also see an overview of my company. They have some data pre-filled like address, and this is coming via the API call. I can type in my primary contact details. I do that by clicking on this demo fill button, and then I also have to provide annual turnover. So annual turnover must be at least 150,000 euros. If I give a lower amount, I can see that we have a business rule being applied, and I'm highlighted that the turnover must be at least 150,000 euros. So I have to correct this before I can continue. So I will instead type in 150,000 euros. And I can also mention that all the fields that have a star next to them indicates that the field is mandatory. So if I now try to click on next, I can see that I'm also highlighted that I haven't chosen a business type. So to be able to continue here, I can choose a business type, private, unlimited, company, and now I'm fine to continue to the next screen. On this screen, I have to submit some more details about the loan. And also here we have some different business rules working in the background and checking, for example, funding time. So if I go here and I choose term loan, I can see that the funding time is 6 months. If I instead choose invoice finance, I can see that the funding time changes to 3 months. Also, I have a business rule for the requested loan amount. So if I type in 250,000 euros here, we want to borrow 250,000 euros, I get a new section here, which becomes visible, where I can also apply or add securities. So in my case, I don't want to borrow that much. It's enough with 50,000 euros. So I type in 50,000 euros instead, and we can see that the section with the securities disappears. So by using these different kind of business rules, we can help the customers to fill out the application correctly and ease the burden for the loan manager of not receiving fault applications, and that will save us a lot of time later in the process. Important takeaways also here that we only show information that are relevant to the customer. I go to the next screen, and here I will have to provide some information about the ownership of the company. It's already pre-filled. We go to the next screen, and we have now coming down here to the questions. And here I have to respond to these questions. Again, I only see questions that are relevant for my loan application. So with Appian, you can easily configure different kind of dynamic questionnaires and manage them from a single location. So I will just quickly fill out this. I can go to the next page where I will have to certify that I have read all the terms and conditions. I just initial this one, and we're now coming down to documentation in the process. So here I have to provide some documentation to support my request, my loan request. Appian has a fully integrated and complete document management system where we can manage Word, Excel, PDF files, but also images and videos. And we can also integrate if you already have an existing document management system. But here I will just go and upload some asset and liability document. We have a cash flow document, and finally profit and loss statement. Now I get to the summary screen and I can now submit my application. After doing that, I'm able to also go and check the status of my application. So here I see the details I have provided and also all the documentation here at the bottom. What I also have is a progress bar showing me that my application is now being processed by the bank. So with Appian, it is always easy to get an overview at what stage you are in the workflow. We can now shift and have a look at the back end of Appian. So we can start here with the process model designer where we can configure the workflows. Appian is completely web-based. You do all the development online, so there's no need to download or install any tools locally. If we take a look here at the current process, we started the workflow here up to the left. We have passed these different steps. We did a new request. We classified and extracted document, and then we send a confirmation email. And now we are at this step where we are waiting for a bank officer to either approve or reject our application. So if it gets approved, it will be processed. The documentation will be generated, we will sign it electronically, and then we will write the information to SAP, send an email back to the customer and end the process. To the left, I have a number of different smart nodes that I can drag and drop onto my process and then start to configure. So I have, for example, smart nodes here to generate different kind of document. I have smart nodes for connectivity services where we can connect to many different applications and systems. If I want now, for example, to have a second approval step, I can drag this user input task and drop it here. And we can call this one approval. And to configure this node, I can just double click on it. And then I have 8 tabs here at the top that I can go through. So assignment, for example, this is the users that will be assigned this task. So if I want to assign it to a person, I can start to type the name of that person. If I want to assign it to a group of a manager, for example, I can just assign it. And now anyone that are a member of this group will get this task. And we can also here manage escalations and exceptions. So this is basically how easy you can configure workflows in Appian. So I was thinking we can also take a look at the interface designer. So if I double click on this request and I go to the forms tab and I want to edit this interface and make some changes to it, I can just click on edit interface. And this will open up the interface designer. This is where we define our forms. So to the left here, I have a number of different components I can choose from, and I can just grab a component here like this text component and I can drop it onto the canvas, and then I can start to configure this component while looking down here to the left where I have different parameters that I can change for this specific component. So in this case, I don't really want this component here, so we can just delete it. But if I would like to change, for example, this annual turnover text field, if I type in here, for example, 100,000 euros, you might remember that we had a business rule checking this figure, and the turnover must be at least 150,000 euros. So if I would like to change this threshold, I can mark this component, highlight this component, and I can then change the parameters for this component. So if I go down here to the bottom, we have validations. And here I can enter the expression editor. So this is pretty much like working in Excel. If you're an advanced Excel user, you have many different functions you can choose from to use. If I want to take this down, for example, to 50,000 instead, I can change this to 50,000 euros. We click OK. and we see now that this amount is okay. So if I instead type in below 50,000 euros, it will be highlighted again. What I also want to point out here is that when we develop in Appian, we actually develop for all different platforms or devices at once. So if I here go into preview mode, I can see what this form would look like for a user accessing this via a web browser. But I can also quickly see what this would look like on a tablet by clicking here on a tablet icon. Or I can see what this would look like on a mobile phone by clicking here on phone. And I see here how all the different components rearranges very nicely and lines up on the phone. So I can still click on this demo fill to get the contact details. I can go here and take it down to 25,000, for example, and see how the business rules is applied and telling me that the turnover must be at least 50,000. This works if you download our native app from either the App Store or from Google Play. So you need to access the application through the Appian native app, and then everything will look exactly the same as it does when accessing it from a web browser. And you can manage the download and the connection details to the application centrally. So this is what I wanted to show you when it comes to the back end of Appian. So let's now swivel over to the lender management portal. I'm now acting as a super user. I can see everything and do everything. But Appian also has a very granular security framework where we can restrict exactly what users are able to see down to data level, as well as what users are able to do. So majority of our customers integrate existing Active Directories or LDAP catalogs to enable single sign-on. The important takeaway here is that Appian can constantly monitor important KPIs to manage escalations and deadlines. And here to the right, I see applications at risk that might need my immediate attention. At the bottom, I can see a breakdown of the applications per city and also visualized on a map. So Appian has very rich reporting and analysis capabilities. It's always real time, and you can also drill down to get a more detailed view, as well as export to, for example, Excel. I now shift tab here to the task tab, and here I now have a new task assigned either to me or a group I belong to. So if I want to process this task, I can open and accept the task. So here I can accept it and review the details. So it's the loan application. I can see the questionnaire information as well as the uploaded document. And if everything looks good here, I can then approve it for submission. So I now shift tab back again to home. Here I have my applications ready now to submission, and if I click on this button, it will automatically generate all the required documents for me. So while we wait for the documents to be generated, I can also mention that we also have an integration here to DocuSign. So this will bring up DocuSign for me automatically, and I can now sign this electronically. So I choose to continue here. I can review the documents that have been created, that everything is correct in here. And then I just bring in my signature, place it on the document, and we go back up and complete this one. And we are now done, and the money will now be released for the customer. So last thing I want to show you is the Appian capability to show a 360-degree view of a customer. Or this could actually be a product or an order or a service request. Point is that we collect all information about, in this case, a customer, and we show it at one place. So I can bring up this application from this customer, and the data we see here can come from anywhere. Appian consolidates the data and gives a complete 360-degree picture, and then we can also take action on this data. So here I can see, for example, some details, of course, but since this was a current customers, I can also see some data, financial statements on this customer. And here we can also integrate to external services like Experian and get a credit score for this customer. They also have a complete audit trail, so we can always track automatically exactly what users are doing and when they did it. So we have the data, timestamps, the objects, anything that changes. So this we collect automatically, which is of course important from regulatory reasons. Before finishing, I just also want to show the configuration tab. So here business users can make changes to this application very easily. So they can change, for example, the thresholds for some parameters, and they can also manage the questionnaire and the certifications while adding, deleting, or editing questions. And this concludes my demo.
Very nice to see actual system on the screen to get a little bit more concrete examples on that. Thank you. I also want to add, because I get this question often, right, on how can I use this tool? It seems like I can use it in many ways, and it's true. I mean, it is a very versatile tool, and we see the three major cases for using this tool. One is to create an individual app, right? Like, and you can create that app in days, 1, 2, 3, 5, 2 weeks time, and create one little app that can do one particular thing. And of course, it might be integrated with other systems and do what needs to be done in the backend systems, right? But it will be individuals. Second use case, it is basically when you take Appian and you bolt it in existing applications that you have, but because might be very expensive to improve them, or they might be very legacy, like mainframes, that is very difficult to extend the functionality. You can bolt on Appian into it and extend that functionality. And maybe even ask users to go through the new bolt-on Appian user interface to access the legacy application, right? So that would be a second use case that is quite popular too. And the third use case is when you use this tool like orchestration tool across different systems, different departments, and different even people and teams, right? So it might be that you design a new GUI, like we will show you, and we also saw from Andreas' demo, and that GUI will basically use information, read information from system 1, system 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, X systems, and put it on the screen, becoming like a glue for all these systems, right? And in that way also orchestrating the whole flow of cases. So suddenly employees, is a lot easier for them to just go to this user interface, right? And do the work there and only there. And that brings me a memory in a project that you and I, we were involved in here in Copenhagen. It is a multinational pharmaceutical company with more than 20,000 employees worldwide. And they have one particular process, right, in the planning department. And it took around 15 screens in SAP to do that work. And what happens is that employees needed to go forth and back and say, oh, what was it that I read in the screen number 3? They went over there, put some code, got the number, and then they had to make a decision on that, right? And then they went back to the screen where they left it on, and then said, no, now I can make a decision or even a calculation, and took a block of note, calculator, typing, right? Then next step required a similar type of work, remembering numbers, going to back and forth screens and so forth. That, of course, is suboptimal. That meant a lot of time to do that operation. That meant a lot of errors, right? The motivation of the employees wasn't really not very high. They needed to work on that stupid system, sorry for my French. So what we did is to implement an iBPM solution, right, in top of that. So they basically reduced from 15 screens to 3. The first screen was the collection of data. All data was pulled from different systems into that screen. Then they could validate things, take a decision, press next. The next screen was something related to basically allocate some lots into some work there, and then to the final screen, right? Tremendous benefit for reducing error, but also reducing leading time. So companies are seeing, when they measured how long it takes to do this type of work, we're talking about 120 days from start to stop for one particular work. Very core of the business, 120 days. What we are seeing is that these type of technologies are enabling clients to reduce from these 120 days, right, to 10 days, 15 days. A dramatic change. And that is basically what we want, right? A digital transformation. Tools like these are enabling that digital transformation. So now we want to show you some of the screens. We also have a live demo, but we didn't want to bore you with yet another demo. So we are going to show you some screens of our own implementation of Appian. So we took Appian and basically built on it to serve our clients. So it is more or less half-baked, if you will. So when we go to clients, we talked about what is the need, and then we basically finalize. We baked the last 30 minutes into the oven, and it's faster to deploy than even before, which is already fast, being a low-code tool. So basically, this is done from our Center of Excellence. With Deloitte, we have Center of Excellence for different technologies and tools. One of these is the Appian Center of Excellence. We have actually 2, one in Portugal and one in Spain. And all the countries in the Nordics have competences locally too. So basically, this platform is simply, as I mentioned before, is pre-built and will allow you to have this orchestration so you can have the control of what is going on and also have an increase in efficiency, because a lot of things are going to be automatically fetching. Data is going to be fetched in without migrating the data, right? You will act on the data, but you don't need to migrate the data. So that is a key point too. Of course, reducing cost, because typically what we see when we do as is evaluation of the processes, and it can be the old-fashioned way with whiteboard, but it can also be using process mining tools like you know the process mining tools that are in the market, and we find this is the problem, right? And with data-based analysis, we can say here and here and here you have. Oh, I just saw one analysis of that. We're talking about millions of crowns, right? One Swedish retailer analysis came out with the CIS problem, the CIS analysis in the AP area, account payable, with 9 million Swedish crowns to fix that particular process, right? Basically, we can reduce that cost with simplifying steps, automating activities, right? And this is also baked into this type of solutions, right? And basically, there are many more benefits, but I think I will let Niklas to take you through some of the screens so you can see, to be more concrete, of what is that we mean and how does this work.
Yeah. So the platform now we show you, or the use case around it, is at the moment for complaints management sites where customers can submit complaints to a bank, and then the bank will handle the complaints along the way. But in general, this functionality, as Xavier said, I mean, we could easily configure this to other industries as well, to insurance, pharma, or in the public sector. So any process that you have that actually has some form of case handling is something where this will apply. So what you see here on the first screen is the work center of the individual caseworker, where that caseworker then can see, okay, what are actually all of the cases that are assigned to me or the teams I'm part of. So here we can, for instance, see that there are 14 active cases and 12 of them actually past due. So it's very easy for the caseworker to prioritize what they need to work on, and then also communicate with other team members. So there's some communication channels built in here, how they can easily chat through the interface as well, and reassign tasks to other team members if they see that is of relevance. This screen, that's also something that Andreas mentioned in the last demo, is like the 360 degree view around a single case, where you can exactly see where in the process it currently is. And in this example here, it's basically either the complaints that is coming through a website where the customer is submitting it, or it can also come from different emails where an RPA bot is crawling those inboxes and then submitting it into the platform. So the information can come from different sources. And in this example here, once a new case is actually submitted, there is some form of intelligence actually assessing it. So there's a little bit of sentiment analysis here that will also help with prioritizing it, knowing if the customer is very dissatisfied or if it's actually something positive.
And that is artificial intelligence, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then there's also parts that it actually does it already categorizes the case into one of the different case categories that they have. So here, for instance, it's something around credit cards itself, but it could also be about bank transfers or different things. So by having this actually done by AI, the cases are immediately being sent to the right people instead of first having to send them through the individual employees that need to triage who should actually work on it. And then we also have, and this I guess is a quite interesting part, a lot of like operational cockpits and dashboards that allow the department heads and team leaders to actually see how well the team is performing and if everything is actually being executed according to the key KPIs that they have. And this is something that was, if you have this only in like individual applications, you would never have this transparency across the different application landscape where your processes actually might be executed in. So in this example here, this is now the cockpits for the day-to-day operations, where you can easily see the key KPIs and how many cases there are. Then there's another one that allows you to do trend analysis. This one is for SLAs. Actually being able to see, for instance, in this case, we see the red line at the beginning. They were like at the start of the year over exceeding the SLAs, but then they basically the team managed to catch up with the workload and then succeeded. So this allows you to see overall how is progress happening. Another dashboard that we thought of was around efficiency, actually seeing how much time your employees spend and how many cases they're handling. And then also one other key feature that we have in here is basically also tracking how much cases are robots actually supporting. And what is the benefit of that? Because with many of the RPA implementations that we have, when they're only happening in the back office, it's often very difficult for the process owners and departments to know what is actually the realized benefit that they gain out of it. So by having this rather linked and facilitated from the iBPM tool that is taking care of the process, it's much easier to map a cost against it and also know how successful the RPA initiative is. Then this one is around effectiveness, actually understanding how's the throughput rate. Is your team managing to catch up with the workload of cases that are coming in? And lastly, we have one around efficiency, actually understanding if the amount of FTEs that you have in a team that is handling a certain process, if that actually matches with the workload they're handling, or if you actually see a trend where you could realize, okay, there is actually too little or too many FTEs in the team. So that's also quite interesting to better understand, okay, how much time is actually handled on the cases.
Yeah. Great. Thank you, Niklas. I think it's very shortly on that. I have been working also with case management before I entered in intelligent automation area, and I have seen a lot of companies using emails as the case management system, right? And it's very difficult to get statistics, data, trends analysis based on that, using that. So case management tools and iBPM tools will allow you to do that, to have every single thing basically make actually data measured and therefore doing analysis afterwards. Super, thank you very much. Basically, the key takeaways before we enter into the questions and answers are basically that with this type of tools like iBPM, LowCode with Appian, basically you will be able to orchestrate the work across multiple departments, right? And multiple systems and multiple robots. You can even orchestrate your robots. I have been talking with another company that has around 300 robots, and then basically they are thinking using iBPM tools in order to orchestrate also these robots across the whole company, right? You have a possibility to do end-to-end automation. We are talking so much about the benefit of doing end-to-end automations is dramatically higher than taking one little team and try to automate the tasks that they are doing. By looking at the core process, pick 1, 2, 3, 4 of your core processes of your company from start until end and automate that. Tools like this will be helping you doing that in an easier manner. And the last part is basically include all these continued improvement mindset, right? And that process excellence is all about with this type of tools, because basically by doing low-code implementations, you can always extend your automation scope. You can extend what you are digitalizing little by little, and that way doing continuous improvement. So we have some questions that we have received. Thank you very much for that. You are not late to send more questions. So basically, one of the questions that we have is that if you need to start your digital transformation journey, where would you recommend to start? What is need to have? What is nice to have? That's a very good question. So basically, it will depend, of course, on what type of organization you are in. Some organizations which, one of the parameters that I always looked and talk openly with the clients is that the risk aversion or the appetite for risk appetite that the organization has. Because digital maturity, I have done digital maturity assessments in companies, and there is a high correlation between high digital maturity with high tolerance for risk, right? So you need to understand and embrace what is that particular risk appetite that your organization have. And based on that, you need to regulate how aggressive you want to do your digital transformation. So in many cases, if I had to say something general, what I have seen that give good result is to start with an area or a process that give results. Success will bring more success. What I have seen, an example of the opposite, is companies very eager, or maybe one department, very eager to show the rest of the company the great things of whatever it is, intelligent automation, iBPM, and so forth. They choose a very complex process with very little capabilities in their hands. That is a bad cocktail that typically ends up with a failure on their initiative, and then the naysayers will say, I told you so, we shouldn't do that, right? So do the opposite. Choose something that you can master, that you can get a success on, right? Put capabilities to ensure, minimize the risk of failure, and then make a video of that. Show it around, because that will create the demand and the funding you would need for a digital transformation. I think in the sake of time, next to the next question.
We have another question around how user-friendly actually the low-code platform is. So maybe, Andreas, that's something where you can add some words.
So how user-friendly are the low-code platforms, Andreas?
So I guess there are two aspects here. One is when you're developing, if you're like a developer, it's very easy to work with the Appian platform to build your application, to do changes. We usually say that a business user can definitely learn how to build application in Appian. If you're like an advanced Excel user, if you know a little bit about data modeling, you can quickly grasp how it works to work with Appian to implement changes to existing applications or create new applications. And then when it comes to the user interface itself, the whole point is that you build user interfaces that can guide users. It should be very intuitive, easy to use. You shouldn't be able to type in faulty data, for example, working with business rules. So yeah, I guess that is my response to the question.
Thank you. Another one is around the different layers that I presented earlier in terms of what we consider as the most important or the most helpful one. And I think in this case, it's really about the orchestration layer, which is key because it solves the challenges of process fragmentation. So if you have a process spanning over many different activities that potentially happen at different points in time and by different people, automating that, for instance, with a robot is very difficult because the handovers just make it tough to find a good scope in there that then allows you also to manage it well and actually have an efficient return of investment from it. So by mastering the orchestration layer, actually making sure that you can look at processes end to end, you have the key benefit. And then the other things are more supportive that allow you then to reach further stages in your maturity to then have a larger scope of what you then have facilitated for the humans, then also being taken over by technology. So that the collaboration between your employees and your automations become even stronger.
Thank you. That's a good answer.
Then we have another question. When integration development is often time consuming, how come Appian and LowCode is able to deliver integration development towards many systems in a few months?
Great question. Great question. Thank you. Let me start answering that question, and then maybe you, Andreas, can finish it off. Would that be all right, Andreas?
Yeah, absolutely.
So basically, one of the advantages of modern tools, right, and this is also including Appian, right, is that they come with connectors, with a vast collection of connectors. And there is also now a differentiator from many vendors. Appian is one of the leading ones of pre-building these connectors to whatever system, to SAP, to Oracle, to Microsoft. The list is very long, right? So these connectors will allow the implementation efforts, the automation efforts to go very fast. Because when you have Appian, you have the possibility to put those connectors into the system and then very quickly interconnect the systems, right? One thing. Second, you also can use robots. You trigger with the orchestration layer of Appian, you trigger robots to do the work of performing one action, getting that output, and then returning back to your screen to the employee, right? So that is another way that it is very easy to integrate these applications. Andreas, maybe you want to continue.
Yeah, no, I think you said it well. I can also just add that you also usually create data in Appian and you want to expose that data so other application and system can use data created in Appian, which is also very easily. So it's just basically a wizard to create the web APIs and expose the data from Appian also. So it two ways.
I think we will try to answer the last question because we are running out of time. So, and please, if you have more questions, you have our contacts there, your contact information there. Please don't hesitate to write us an email and ask us any other question. But the next question says, what kind of companies would benefit from iBPM and low-code system? Well, companies basically that have processes, people in the loop, right, and systems. Who are those companies? The majority, right? 99% of the companies. So I believe that the benefit of tools like this is for many, many companies that would allow them to be digital very, very fast and so forth. So, and the last question that is in this one is basically, is this a system which will also be able to handle CRM and stocks as well as processes? Well, once again, that will depend on your company, right? If it's a small company that the requirements for CRM are not maybe tremendous, I think very easily you can use Appian to build that or reuse some of the pre-built software from Appian to do that, right? Definitely, you can do that. But if you're a company that has a tremendous list of requirements for CRM, you could also build it, right? But you could also go for companies that specialize in CRM, right? And so forth. So it is a possibility for both. Maybe Andres, you want to comment on that?
No, I think again we have partners that have built different CRM modules that you can start to use directly. We definitely help companies to build CRM systems, case management systems. But if you're looking for something really big and complex, then maybe go for a off-the-shelf software.
Great. Perfect. Thank you very much, Andreas, for joining us here in this Grab and Go.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
you very
Nicholas,
much.
and I hope you have a nice session. Talk to you next time.